Hey y'all, Pharaoh Zubat here. What's happening? So, super exciting news. The new season of DOROHEDORO just came out. Well, the first three episodes. And we are going to talk about episode 13. That is the first episode of season 2. I just watched it and I'm going to tell you about my thoughts in this video while I make really stupid and bad drawings. They are actually just really bad sketches, but I thought that would be fun to have in the background. Yeah, so let's get into it. First, I'm going to talk about the opening. It has great visuals and the song's pretty good. I like all the bright colors. I'm glad they brought that back, but it seems like this season is quite a bit more gory, and it even shows that within the opening. Like, there's a lot more dismemberment, if that makes sense, or like slicing people in half, or slicing slivers of them off in the opening, which I thought was pretty cool that they included that. Let me see what else I have. It also kind of turns into a rave in the opening, which is awesome. And then they have the little figures like exploding in color. So, that's sick. Let's get into the show. Let me look at my notes. It opens with this like devil-like dude, and couldn't tell if it was a devil or not. Later, oh, by the way, this is going to have spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, click off the video. If you've seen I'm only talking about the first episode of season 2, so if you haven't seen any past that, you're completely fine. But it opens with this devil-like dude, and I was like, is that a devil? And then later, it shows it's not. And I want to know why these guys at the slaughterhouse look so weird. Like, what makes them have devil-like appearances when they aren't devils? It's also a really interesting concept to have these like dudes kind of practice a type of fighting that gives them the advantage over sorcerers that have more power or more magic than they do more black smoke. So that's a really interesting concept, and it's interesting to introduce this thing where there's an organ that if you're stabbed in it, you can't produce smoke. And I wonder how they're going to progress after that later on. Like, I wonder if they stab Noe there, then that means she can't heal herself, right? So I wonder if that means she won't be able to heal Shin. And then I wonder how they'll survive this, I guess. I mean, I know they'll survive it because main cast, but it's just interesting. But that comes a little later in the episode. And back to the beginning of the episode, I think we're going to get a little bit more information about Risu in the next couple episodes, specifically surrounding his death and the details about that, which I'm really interested to know why he had to die and all the other details. I'm just really curious. But I did think it was interesting that they had him run into another Cross Eyes, and that Cross Eyes took him back to the base. Because from what we know is Risu was killed by a Cross Eyes member, but we don't know who, and we don't know why. So it's really interesting that he's trusting enough to go back to a base with the Cross Eyes. But I guess we'll see what happens there later. I don't know quite yet if these Cross Eyes are friends or foes. Also interesting, at the slaughterhouse they also have crosses on their eyes. So they're part of the Cross Eyes, which I wonder how they're going to tie into everything. The hideout appearing as a normal house is pretty interesting. Um, I don't know what I expected. I didn't expect much, to be honest with you. Which I do want to preface this. I have read the manga. I read it a few years ago when I was waiting for season 2 to come out, and they were just sitting on season 2 for so long that I gave up and I read the manga. So I'm really curious to see how this adaptation is going to be compared to the manga, which the manga is phenomenal. If you haven't read it yet, I would 10 out of 10 recommend. But I don't remember everything in the manga, so I'm coming from a standpoint of not really. I remember a few things, so I know kind of what's going to happen, but I don't remember everything. So a lot of this is new information that isn't at the forefront of my mind. Like, I don't know how they're going to do the adoption, and I don't um, remember every detail in it. But it's interesting that they had the hideout look normal. I mean, it's neither here nor there. I think they could have done either way. It seems as though, because they mentioned that these cross eyes at the hideout are like the boss's top people, like the boss is the closest to. And it seems, since the boss is absent and no one seems to know where he is, that they are struggling financially and that they are very frugal and they're doing their best to make ends meet. Um, but I wonder if that's, like, I wonder how much of it has to do with the black powder and if we'll learn anything about, like, how that's made, or if that's like the main moneymaker for the cross eyes. I think it is, but I'm not entirely sure. One of the cross eyes I don't really trust is where's his name? Dokuga? Is that his name? Hold on. Let me see. Yeah, Dokuga. I don't really trust him. He seems to like know more than he's letting on. And I just feel like he's not really into caring about Risu very much. But then again, we don't know much about Risu. We only know a little bit, so we don't even know if we should be rooting for Risu. But it's interesting, and I really want to know, why is Risu the man that's in Kaiman's mouth? Like, what is that? What is that detail? I don't think we'll find that out for a while, though. I have a general idea from the manga, but I don't remember all the details that go into it, so I'm not gonna spoil anything. Ebisu is adorable. Ebisu is one of my favorite characters in the show. I thought she was so cute in her Little Mermaid outfit, and I really enjoy her personality. I think the way she talks is so funny, and I just really love that character. I think she's well written, and I can't wait to see more about her backstory because I know that's coming. I don't really think that's a spoiler, but I know that's coming. And then I am curious on how In has not noticed that Nikaido is not Nikaido yet. Like, is it Cheeto? Not Cheeto. I forget his name. The bird dude. I don't know how In hasn't... Chota. I don't know how In hasn't noticed that she's behaving exactly like Chota. No idea. But I wonder... Hi, babe. I wonder when he will notice. And I know that when In and Nikaido see each other again, the contract will go back into effect, which is interesting. So hopefully Nikaido doesn't run back into N anytime soon. But I've noticed that N's cleaners have kind of noticed that Nikaido's acting like Chota. And that is because Nikaido is Chota right now. Well, Chota's Nikaido right now, but anyways. I'm just wondering how long it'll take N to notice. We got a little bit of a lore drop on the professor's wife. So that's really interesting. We don't really know who she is. It's suggesting that she might be a sorcerer, but we don't really know that. But seeing as she lives in the sorcerer's world, or did, it would suggest that she's probably a sorcerer. What else do I have in my notes?
Spoiler alert, Jesus Christ.
You came out while I was filming, so...
Spoiler alert.
Go away then.
No.
Do you want to say anything to the mic?
Sup, bitches?
That's my boyfriend. He just woke up out of nowhere. It is the middle of the night. It's like 3 in the morning.
He's been sleeping for like 24 hours. Give me a break.
He has been sleeping for like 24 hours. But I have in my notes, poor Johnson being cramped in the car. I do love that Johnson has become kind of like a main character. And he's like a giant bug with hard exoskeleton. But I'm glad that he's making more of an appearance. Glad that the slaughterhouse people couldn't really fight him until they got roach spray, which is unfortunate for Johnson. I do think it's interesting that the professor found a photo of him and his wife, and I wonder how that's going to play into the show later on. Are the cleaners defeated? We don't know that yet. They may or may not be. It seems like they're in a really tough spot. And once again, I do just think it's really interesting that they've introduced this organ that is like a weak point for sorcerers. And that if you're stabbed in it, you can't produce smoke anymore. And I wonder, as I said before, I wonder just how that's going to play a role in this. I gotta wrap this up. It's interesting that Katsukabe seems to have taken his wife's name. Or they have the same name, we don't really know. And also vomit blood in defense for the win. Anyways, I guess I'll wrap it up there. Those are my thoughts on the first episode of Season 2, Episode 13. Thank you guys so much for joining me and watching this video. I hope you like my very bad sketches. Yeah. I'm not good at digital art. I don't act like I am. So I hope you enjoy watching me sketch whatever I feel like that has to do with DOROHEDORO. But anyways, Pharaoh Zubat out. Bye!